Welcome to episode 28, everyone, of the Armchair Analysts podcast. I'm your host, Ace. With me, as always, is...
Yanni!
Yanni. I wish we had a last name for that. It would sound a little bit... Yanni Baseballs, we'll call you today. Johnny is going to kick us off with a plug of how you can find us, as well as the rundown. So take it away.
All right, you've heard it a billion times, but until we reach 2 billion followers, there's no way I'm going to stop. So if you haven't already, please give us a follow at AA Podcasts. 28 episodes, man. That's still really awesome. I didn't think we'd make it past 2, but no, I'm just kidding.
I would love 2 billion followers, too.
Probably won't happen unless we can somehow hack into 2 billion computers, but we are available on every major platform. So if whatever you guys are into, if you got an iPhone, you want Apple Podcasts, we're on there. You dig Google Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you're into, and apparently Amazon Music, we are now able to apply for that listing. So look for us on there, anywhere else that you listen. Also, as always, you can also find us on the YouTubes. So, give you guys a little rundown. We're going to shake things up a little bit here. It's just been a lot of, week-to-week progression of crappy situations panning out, more and more players opting out, games getting postponed, canceled, yada, yada, yada. It's getting to be a little much. Ace likes to be positive mental attitude is his kind of his mantra, so we're going to try to get through the regional news, get through some of the updates of things that are going on in our area between Wisconsin and Minnesota, and then as we work through that, maybe that'll probably be about 30% of the show. And then we're going to work our way through the clip of the week. And then we're just going to tee off on a topic and we are just going to go. It's kind of, it's kind of like, you're a dog chasing a car. You don't really know where you're going to end up, but you're going to start off on one point and then we'll just kind of see what happens from there. So this week, the topic is going to be the XFL being purchased by an investment group led by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
What the Rock is cooking.
That's going to end up far, far away. So if you're not a huge XFL person, don't be scared away. That's just a starting point. It's going to snowball into Lord knows what. But stay tuned to this to the end and you'll find out. But we are going to go with continuing my segment, though, the random rant. This week, this one's kind of sad. It might piss some people off, but I honestly feel that social media right now is probably one of the worst things to have and to be on right now. Just because there's so many opinions and there's just so many just toxic and terrible opinions and horrible takes. And it's really a bad time to be kind of locked indoors and have less. I mean, there's still a ton of people working from home. And I mean, after a while, you just get the feeling that people just weren't meant to be able to share every thought that they've ever had. Like, it's not a good idea. It's really, really not. And
do you have one in particular? Or
literally any ESPN post that has anything to do with kneeling, if you go into that comment section or you go into the following tweets, if you're there on Twitter for the article, everyone's saying like, oh, I'm not going to watch the NFL now. Oh, disrespect. Why does it have to be political? Ending racism has nothing to do with politics. It is all cultural. Like there's nothing political about it. So that I'm gonna get my blood's starting to boil a little bit, but we'll dial it back. I'm just saying that what everyone's saying, like, oh, the worst is seeing people that go into like NFL live videos, like literally the live conference or whatever, and there's people in there saying like, oh, well, this is too political. I'm not watching kneelers. I'm not watching any more NFL games. Like, dude, you are inside the NFL's channel watching a live broadcast and saying how you're not going to watch during the season? Like, what?
Next. We're not
it's almost like people make empty idol ultimatums on their couch. I don't know. But
I think the sad point is TikTok is only the beginning of government regulation on some of these platforms. And to be honest, I'm sort of in favor for that because too much misinformation gets spread. And I know I know that
you put it in meme form, it gets written down and passed along as the gospel.
Yep.
And it doesn't. There's no fact checking. There's no sourcing. There's no people. Don't. I guarantee 90% of the people that share those things don't actually read the full article or even check the source. They just see something like, oh, yeah, this is backing what I believe in, so I'm just going to share it to everyone that needs to see it.
That's a great point. It's given way to like just read the headline and don't really dive or invest much energy into the rest of it.
I will 100% admit to doing that. Especially push notification stories. I'll see that. I will maybe, if it's something intriguing, I'll save the notification. I'll open it later and read it. But I would say probably 60 to 65% of the stories that I go through, I'm just checking headlines. Yeah, but I mean that's where we're at right now. That's what smartphones do. That's the human brain is basically a goldfish right now. It's about the same attention span. But
oh my gosh, yeah, we could this could take up the entire show. It's just talking about.
It's not going to. We're gonna put the brakes on it right now. But I know that you were just kind of chomping at the bits to talk about a team that is tied for the best record in baseball. Ace, who is it?
Oh my God, the Minnesota Twins, of course. Yeah, 9-2 right now. I think we played 2 games at home against the Pirates, and now we're going to their stadium to play 2 more games against them. And yeah, what more can you say? I think it was last week, we got 3 straight wins from free agent pitchers, starting pitchers that we signed last year. So, I mean, Nelson Cruz for MVP, that early prediction, God, I should have put my money on him. He wasn't even in the odds making category to decide on. But Nelson Cruz is on fire. I think he's got the most RBIs of anyone at 15 or 16 now in all of baseball. Our pitching, I'm still our I should say our relievers are doing well, but overall starters, I'm still a little. We'll see how that plays out in a series, against the Yankees or whoever else in the playoffs. But 9-2, this is exactly how our team wanted to start. Absolutely. I love it. Where everyone here is talking Nelson for MVP, like I mentioned, the World Series push. It's just early. What else do we have to celebrate, I guess? Basically, we're all just diving in.
It's all the Minnesota baseball fans just chugging the Kool-Aid.
And speaking of Kool-Aid, that the Minnesota United football team has made the semifinals. The soccer team, they made the semifinals now too. So it's like 2 of our 2 teams that really kind of have been lost in the shuffle the last handful of years. The Twins are really coming on strong, and now that the United has a new stadium in St. Paul, it's like they're clearly getting the players and playing well to be able to hopefully play for a cup here if they can win this next game, which would be incredible. So,
well, that's the whole point of getting a new venue, right? It makes the team play better inherently. That's just how it works.
Right?
That's what the Raiders are hoping for, man.
Conspiracies?
Yeah. Well, there's not a whole lot to talk about in the Brewers side of things, except for Locane opting out for the season.
Yeah, Lorenzo Cain, I mean, that's surprising.
He's led some things to the imagination, because there's not a whole. This whole season was going to be about replacing some key players that we lost in the off season, and you know what? That's just one more. It's not like he's really going to make or break the horrible start. So, 3-5, it's pretty gross, and even the wins weren't all that spectacular, except for the extra innings win. But yeah, it's nothing of note, unfortunately.
I think that would make him opt out sooner too. Is the level of play? Like if they see that players aren't really giving it their all and they start off bad, God, in a shortened season, I could see, especially if they're not going to make it like what the NFL did, putting a deadline on to opt out, then players can just opt out anytime. It seems like for the.
Well, speaking of that, I don't know if you heard this is about I remember who it was. There was a player that they sent security up to his room. He was trying to get the player to report.
The Mets.
Yeah. They literally sent security up to his room, and he was not there, didn't leave a note, just disappeared, and then so he just automatically, by default, opted out for the season. Like, dude just straight up dipped. Like, that was...
Apparently the agent told him shortly after, by the way, he's going to opt out for the rest of the year.
No, you think? Wow, crazy. Yeah, so at least Locaine was nice enough to say, "Sorry, guys, I'm not doing this." But yeah, I mean, and while we're here, the Bucks. I mean, they haven't had a full starting five with Bledsoe in for more than a quarter, so and they literally have to win one game to clinch the East. So I'm not worried about the slow start. They're still getting everything in right back where it was. I mean, that's the thing, they left on such a high note to be able to expect every game to be a full court press, so to speak. No pun intended. I mean, it's a little absurd to think about. So
yeah, you kind of had a feeling all these teams, it was going to be tough the first couple games in for the NBA, for any team to get back in the groove.
Sure. Well, and I just, there's no sense of urgency though. They literally have to win one game, and then they're in the postseason. So it's not like do or die. There's not a huge reason to get everyone on the court and make everybody play a full game and get worried if they lose to the Nets who are missing 3 starters. No big deal. It's whatever.
Yeah.
You want to round off regional news for us?
Yeah, so the last, outside of the Wild starting back up, some other bigger news, the Minnesota Gophers' top wide receiver is opting out of his season. So I think he's a junior, going to be a junior this year, Rashad Bateman, and arguably a top 20 pick overall coming into the next year's NFL draft. So he's opting out this year for football. And some other kind of interesting news, which I'm not sure if Wisconsin had this yet, but for Minnesota State high school athletics, they voted on pushing back volleyball and football to the spring of 2021. So I think most of the other sports, from what I read, are going to continue on, like soccer, boys and girls soccer, cross country. Those kind of sports are going to play as is. But some major announcement, obviously, for volleyball and football to get pushed back till 2021 for Minnesota. So I'm not sure if you heard that, like I said, in Wisconsin, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
I'm sure it's coming, dude. I'm sure it's coming.
Yep. And I think to a larger degree, this is just another domino falling through for even collegiate athletics to get canceled,
which is why we're kind of pushing through this, because it's the same crap every week. One more domino literally falls and it just leads to the next thing. But that being said, we do have some interesting and compelling news coming out about players in both the Big Ten and the Pac-12 forming a little unity group and basically imploring the NCAA to step your game up, because whatever they're doing right now, they think that the proposal that the NCAA is currently going forward with falls short in actually keeping the students healthy and safe. And you know what? If I was a parent of one of these students, like they're not doing anything crazy. They're not going out and causing a big ruckus. They're going through the right channels. They're formulating good arguments. They're posing them in very formal methods. They're literally just putting statements out, and just saying that, hey, this isn't, like, they know their value. The players know that they are the thing that drives the NCAA, and without them, there's this nonprofit machine. The NCAA doesn't make a dime. So they're using that as leverage, and I think that's great that they're trying to step things up here. And the only thing they're asking for is that they have a safe work environment, which is what we all are hoping for, right? So
yeah, and that's why it's tricky to discuss all of this stuff, because it's like you're talking about a work environment. Does that mean they don't go to school, or do they take hybrid classes in order to not be around the other student body population? Like how?
Yeah.
It's easier for professionals. Yes, it's easier for professionals to potentially, be somewhat isolated in their environments. But I mean, when a part of your scholarship is an expectation to go to classes in some way, shape, or form, I don't know. It's tough.
Golf. What we got?
First major of the reset years back, the PGA Championship in San Francisco. I actually looked at an aerial view of the course, and it looks pretty tough around the greens. But I don't want to dive in too much on this, because I know that for my Aces Quick Six, I'm gonna discuss 6 players to look at. Point is, first major of the year coming back, PGA Championship. The field is stacked, obviously, and I'll hit on some players to go for in my quick six.
Cool. All right, so this is your brainchild. So why don't you talk a little bit about Miss Doris for me?
Doris Burke. Well, we'll cue the audio clip after this, but she basically was on a live broadcast a couple days ago and had some comments about her ex-husband.
I do like being right. Ask my ex-husband.
Happens every time. X. There's a reason it's X, huh?
The best part about that, I'll say, too, in watching, is that it's a replay of a guy getting kneed in the groin.
Oh, that is wildly appropriate. And if we would have started this audio clip of the week, we could have done that dude that ripped that crazy fart while he was driving, like literally mid-swing.
Oh, the Ian Poulter.
Or like right after.
Golf.
Yeah. That would have been a nice addition too. So we'll throw it up on Twitter too, just to share with you guys in case you didn't hear, because it's actually pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so that kind of wraps up the regional topics. If we missed something, if you want something else, we can definitely feature it in next week's episode. Just shoot us a tweet. But now we want to get this ball rolling here. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. XFL, it died. It was starting to gain momentum. There was breakout players, PJ Walker being one of them, the Throwing Samoan being another.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them signed to NFL contracts, actually. I don't know how that's going on right now, especially when they can't even get an opportunity to really prove themselves. But yeah, I mean, the asking price was $15 million. Like it's pennies for what Vince McMahon dumped into it. So, I mean, it's a big deal, but I think what we really want to chat about is the ramifications. Like, I mean, honestly, like if you listen to the podcast for any length through February and March, I will not even hide the fact that I was a big fan of it. Maybe not for, the game itself. Like, it was entertaining. They brought a lot of cool stuff that we chatted about, like the literal, like, immediate interviews of the players. Like, a quarterback throws a pick, the sideline reporter goes up, like, why did you do that? Like, how? Why would you throw that ball? Like, not totally, getting in their face, but kind of. Like, if you bungle a project at work, like, why did you screw that up?
Yes, yes. It's bringing the obvious to the forefront, which I love.
And you know what? It's screw tact. Like, we get all of these recycled, lines for interviews. Oh, they're the better team. Really great coaches, great talent. All this recycled, regurgitated BS that we hear every interview, unless it's like Bart Scott or Richard Sherman screaming to the microphone. It's pretty much the same stuff. So I thought that was fresh. The replay thing was pretty cool. The dude literally had an Xbox controller and was going through with it. You got complete transparency of what the refs were talking about, even if they sounded like they had no idea what was going on. I'm guarantee there's at least one time where ref was like, yeah, I didn't really watch the play. not quite in those words, but it's like, I didn't get a good angle. It's like, okay, bro.
Can we levy to have them mic'd up then, the NFL refs?
Oh my God, yeah.
XFL, I should say.
Yeah, but point being, they brought some interesting stuff. The kickoff was another one, but they brought some interesting elements to it. But the real big thing that I was excited about was a pseudo farm league for the NFL. You get players that, get banged up, something happens, they're on the track of trying to get back in the NFL. And you got to remember, a lot of these people, they don't exactly have a lot of backup options, because if they only play, a couple years in college, most of them aren't going back to finish that degree. And there's a good amount that have, which I'm super pumped about. And I will always support that, especially while they're doing, like, they'll pick it up in the off season for NFL. They'll just take a semester and just slowly knock it out. But
when this
most
falls
of these
in
players,
line,
they don't have a backup.
In the season, yeah, it's relatively short, but it falls in line at a good time for them to kind of prove themselves before, to potentially get on a training camp roster for the NFL. So it works out.
I mean, we kind of talked about that too. Like, I'm not sure how that would work. Like, you're playing in the NFL offseason, then you'd be picking up, when the XFL ends, you only have a couple months, and then it's okay. It's like time to start doing like OTAs and stuff for NFL. Like, that's a long year, bro. Like, that is a long time to be playing football at a high level. But that's kind of what they're going for. That's why the players agreed to play. A lot of them were ex-NFL players, and the thing is, it's not just the players themselves. Like there was coaches. There's a lot of opportunities for other people involved in football to get a second chance, or even just to catch the eye of maybe a NFL level executive. Like, wow, like whoever is doing the training for that team, like they haven't gotten injured all year. Like just stuff that you don't really think about on the surface, but it's like, well, I mean, that could be an opportunity for somebody down the road.
Yeah. I think overall, I was surprised that they were the only team to actually submit a bid to buy basically the XFL, which
I mean, they went bankrupt, bro. Like,
yeah,
they spent $15 million on a bankrupt team. Like,
well, they probably. I wonder if as a part of that, they have to basically assume contracts or like they have to pay player fees based off some bankruptcy filing. I don't know, but
I'm sure there's a lot of nuances to it that would be so boring to go through. But I mean, yeah, like that's something too. Do they control all the IP, all the intellectual property of all the teams, all the logos, all of the merch? Like, do they acquire literally everything? I would hope so. If you're paying $15 million for a bankrupt company,
yeah, that's what I mean. That's why it seems lower than what I thought. But maybe $15 million on the surface is actually kind of.
But that's the thing. It's not. It's not the $15 million. It's the money you'd have to invest and the time and effort you'd have to invest in order to get it back running again. I think that's really the point here, right? Like, it's $15 million. I mean, that's literally nothing. Dwayne, he probably had that in one of his tiny little bank accounts. Like, that's nothing. So it's really the money and the time to get it back. I mean, at least to the level that it was, because that was probably. I understand that there were some other issues, but I mean, COVID more or less shut that league down. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's the thing, because now we're getting to the point where we're talking about the shortened the truncated training camps, no preseason. You're not getting a full off season with your rookies. You're not getting a regular training camp with your rookies. Undrafted free agents are pretty much just screwed, I think. Like, there's no way that you could trust a roster spot to someone that you can barely even judge how they would perform on the field, right? Like, that's...
Oh, God.
So,
I don't know how you could.
That's gotta be rough. And like, I think, wasn't the Vikings that had the most draft picks in NFL history this past draft?
Yes.
Doesn't really pan out right now.
Yeah,
that's
Spielman's MO.
Yeah, well, not the greatest of tactics this round, unfortunately, because the only way you're going to get to see him is, I mean, I can't remember what the limit. I think it's a dozen full pad practices are allowed before the season starts.
Plus, they have this odd, like, COVID exempt list too that they can put players on, which I don't even like. Our first round pick, the wide receiver Jefferson, apparently is on that list. I have no clue what that means. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that means. I think it's if they are symptomatic or they test positive. Don't quote me on that, but I mean, because Stafford was put on it and he literally has it, so that's my benchmark.
Or they were around somebody. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's the thing too. Like, if someone is going as symptomatic and gets tested, everyone in the vicinity, any that was within contact of them, is basically kind of put on notice. Also, I don't know if you picked this up. I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about how they're instituting, like, basically player tracking chips.
Yes.
So now, within the facility, you can see exactly how close they come into contact with and they're like different, like players. I believe players and coaches are tier 1. I don't remember what tier 2 is, and then there's tier 3. So, like, depending on, you can see exactly who is in contact with who, and you can restrict, like, okay, well, these guys can only be in the room with these guys if there's this much space. Like, I think the NFL, like, they're really trying here.
Well, and then they've hacked into their phones too, so that they know if they're going to, like, Wingstop or some
as if no one hacked into our phones before. Ace, come on. Apple knows they know they're stealing our podcast right now because they can hear you. My Android's in the other room, fortunately, but Microsoft's still listening. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's that's why when I saw that, I was like, well, pretty sure the cell phones could do that on their own. But who knows? Absolutely. Maybe Adam Thielen still has a flip phone, huh?
Hey, you never know. I mean, that Mankato education could have...
Oh, MNSU!
You're right. I can't hate.
No, I love to drink at that school. It's a lot of fun.
Heck yeah. And I mean, the hate, if we're a regional crossing over between Minnesota and Wisconsin, I can't be hating on my own product. That'd be stupid.
Hashtag border battle.
Hashtag load up.
I want to say that the NFL has had enough time and has enough resources and is like they can watch, like they see the bubble, they see how that's going, they see how teams like the Cardinals, who are missing 9 games due to them bungling multiple things. The nice thing is for the divisional games, I mean, at least for the Midwest, the flights are what, 45 minutes to an hour, like.
Well, and it's private too.
So I've been reading a little bit more about the start of the season. They have a list of a lot of teams that have already said no to fans. I don't think, as of recording, the Packers have jumped on that bandwagon yet. What do you think about? I know that we talked about this briefly, but what do you think about what should they do about season ticket holders? What do you do with people that are willing to pay a crazy amount of money to see a game? And just general like seating, like if you go with a group of 4 and only 2 of them live with you, like how do you think they're going to be able to handle all that?
I think the free market is going to take over if they're going to allow fans in the stands with, I think, the one clarifying statement of preferential treatment to like season ticket holders. So let's say they allow 25%, maybe they allow of that 25%, 20% or 15% of season ticket holders to be allowed in, and then the other 10% goes up on the third party, secondary market to purchase. I don't know. It's so odd to think about because realistically, each state and each individual county, for that matter, that these stadiums are in, even at the city level, they're gonna have to kind of go on their own. It sounds like. So.
Yeah.
What could happen in Green Bay might not happen even in Minnesota, perhaps.
Yeah, and that, I guess, my thought, because I mean, typically I would drop, depending on how many games I go to, I probably dropped about a minimum of $500 just in tickets per year. So, on the other side of that, would I be willing to drop $500 to go to one game? At this point, probably. Not being able to go to baseball games, not being able to go to Bucks games, not being able to, that's. I know that I'm wired a little bit differently. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my leather recliner, my big screen. It's absolutely amazing.
And a cocktail just a walk away from the fridge.
After the Packers blow a lead, I love pouring a nice stiff whiskey on the rocks and being able to drown my sorrows. But I mean, there's nothing like a Packer tailgate. There's nothing like a Brewer tailgate. So I want to get my butt in those seats, but
what happens? Do
you see what's happening with the NCAA, right? Like obviously they have a much larger roster. They have a lot more concerns because, I think legally it's a little bit harder because the kids aren't under contract. They have scholarships and stuff, but they're not employees, right? So. Yeah. I think legally they have a little bit more to worry about, but as far as the NFL is concerned, I feel like it's going to be very difficult to navigate these waters, and I'm pretty sure no matter what they do, they're going to be scrutinized just because that's where the NFL is at right now. I'm not even kidding. Like if you see any Facebook or Twitter post by the NFL or ESPN or what have you, if it has anything to do with kneeling or whatever. The
topical
backlash. Yeah. Oh, it's so brutal right now. It's just so bad. Like there's just a flurry and influx of just really, really opinionated and ignorant people. And it's just if half of these people that say they aren't going to watch,
those are the same ones that are going to outbid you for tickets too to go to a game. How much you want to bet?
Well, I think I mentioned this a couple episodes ago. I've seen numerous people in my own personal feed, not on just random strangers. People saying like, "Oh, I'm turning my Packer season tickets." I'm like, "Hi, what's your name and address? I'll take them."
Yeah.
Like sports is a relief. It's a way to escape. Especially with things that have been happening this terrible, terrible year. We want every opportunity we can to escape, and that's why. Every year I plan at least one game and I try to get my friends together. We try to go to a game. last year we did Brewers and Packers in one weekend, or Badgers and Packers in one weekend. Like, it's a way to get together. It's a way to escape. It's a way to forget, gotta go back to work on Monday. It's a break from the monotony, and I think everyone could use that right now. So I am hoping with all my wishful power to the NFL gods that we can have a season. But
yeah,
the way college football's looking, man.
The one thing that worries me is that when those tickets, like, however, let's say they do allow 25% capacity at Lambeau Field, like, clearly you're going to expect to see the majority being season ticket holders, if not all of them, right? Because they're invested into the team more than the average fan, you would think. So I don't.
A lot of them are. That's not how it really works, though, because a lot of them are family tied. Like, if your great grandfather worked for the Packers, in the 60s. So I would argue that depending on the cost, because you were talking about how the free market's going to take over.
Yep.
It's kind of like with student tickets. Like, let's say it's we'll take Madison and the Badgers for example. Let's say Ohio State's playing at Camp Randall. That student's going to flip that ticket that they paid, as part of the package, maybe $30 for.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to flip it for, a couple hundred.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that into the NFL. If we can only fit, 20,000 out of the 80,000 seats, the person, whose grandmother passed on the tickets to them can make, $500 off a nosebleed seat. I think they're probably going to take it, especially if they have season tickets.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, that's just how it works. I don't know if you've scalped tickets before, but that's pretty much how it goes.
Well,
someone gets it for cheap and then sells it for too much. So
it's. I mean, that's going to happen all year.
Rip me off. I don't care, man. Rip me off. Take 200% profit. If I can get my butt in a seat, I'm going.
With the Gophers' top 10 recruiting class, I can just imagine the markup on some of the student tickets.
Oh, look at you. You just had to throw that in, didn't you?
Well, I mean, with the season, I forgot to even mention that their schedule was released, too, and we play the Badgers' fourth game of the year.
Yeah, end of September, I think.
Yeah.
So,
right when the spike is supposed to happen for COVID.
Right. So, I mean, keep your fingers and toes crossed, guys, because I think we would all benefit for at least a little bit of sporting goodness. And, who knows? Maybe the Cardinals get their head out of their asses and they'll actually be able to play a game this month. See?
I mean, he's talking about baseball, folks.
Yeah, well, Arizona Cardinals maybe too, but yeah, you know what? It's a learning process. I understand that there's a lot of stuff. Like, we even talk about like all these different things that need to be considered. It's true. I mean, there's so many different facets, and we're covering maybe whatever. Like, we're covering like an infinitesimal amount of things that have to be measured and thought out before a game can be played. So, here's hoping, but
I know.
Be prepared. All I know is that I'm not renewing my live TV subscription until I get some confirmations. But the thing is, they're taking it's a week-to-week thing. Every sport's a week-to-week thing. There's no guarantees.
You meant confirmation for the XFL returning, right?
Stop it. Yeah. All right, that's enough. We snowballed enough, but yeah, we made our way through a little bit of everything. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
For continuity's sake, I think we have to revert to the best part of the show, though. We talked about a little bit of what this might entail, but I think we got a little bit of golf action for AC's Quick Six, correct?
Absolutely. So if you're a betting man, listen up, because I got 6 players not named Tiger, Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth. I could go on, actually. Basically, I got 6 players outside of like the big names to put some money on if you're interested. And this is also, this team is what I'm going with for, there's about 20 of us friends that for each of the major tournaments will put in DraftKings lineup for these major tournaments. You get to pick 6 players. So conveniently, this works perfect for the Quick Six. These guys you'll never heard of, but if you make some money, let me know, because you're welcome. Abraham Answer, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Sung J. Im, Patrick Reed, I think people have heard of, and Webb Simpson. I would imagine people have heard of that name too, maybe more so Reed. those are 6 guys I like and 6 guys that are in my lineup for the PGA Championship. I mean, I could go into detail about them, but I don't think, you guys really care all that much, so I'll shy away.
Oh, what? You were talking? No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, if you care, reach out to me on Twitter, our Twitter handle, or if you're
Snapchat.
Close enough to me, if you got my phone number or Snapchat, just reach out that way.
Ace's phone number provided in the links. No, I honestly, you know what? I thoroughly enjoy playing golf. I've always been kind of opposed to watching it because I'm just used to growing up with my dad just falling asleep watching golf on Sundays after church. So I've never really been able to. I mean, I'll watch a few holes, but I could not watch a full round, I don't think. Although they have made a lot of, the camera work now is just, you can move from player to player so easily. So, I mean, it helps keep people engaged, but I think now that I'm actively playing, it might be a little more intriguing, but...
Yeah. I will say Brooks Koepka is the reigning champion back-to-back years, so he's a heavy favorite, just FYI.
And he's who I model my game after, Ace.
Oh,
Truly.
Both on and off the course.
Ooh, buddy. All right, you got anything else super important to say, or are we done?
No, I think we're out.
We're done. All right. Well, we'll bore you one more time. We'll do our shameless plugs. If you're not already, please give us a follow. Shoot us some sort of message. Say, hey, you suck. Hey, you're great. We don't care. Love to interact with fans. It's always a good time. At AA Podcasts on Twitter. And then, we're everywhere you can possibly imagine. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio.
Rate us.
Podcast Addict. Yeah. You know what? Deezer. And then, you like what you hear, you think we're garbage, either way, if you go to ratethispodcast.com/armchairpod, you can tell people exactly how you feel about us. Or you can just go to our YouTube page, go in one of our videos and say, hey, you guys are great. Or say, Ace's voice is annoying. Whatever you feel, this is America. Give us your opinion. We have to listen to it. But that's our episode for this week. Thank you guys for listening. Don't care how you listen, as long as you do. I'm Johnny, that's Ace, and we are out.